Welcome to the Shutter Saga Podcast. I'm your host, Marvin Blue. Join me each week as we dive into amazing conversations with some of our industry's top leaders. We will talk about photography, business, and most of all, share the stories that have laid the foundation to our journey in this world we call photography. A couple of ways to support the show is to like, subscribe, and share the show with others. Leave those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and if you're a fan of seeing us live, we are on YouTube. Also, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Again, thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
All right, so here we are, round two. If you listen to part one, you're going to enjoy part two. We got cut off because of scheduling and the conversation was getting so good. I didn't want to end part one where we were at, so I had to put a pause for the cause. And we've got Bethany Ellen back on the show here. We created a part two because there was a ton of questions that still didn't get asked. And I figured, you know what better way to do this than just go into part two with a bunch of fan questions that we had coming in when I put out the bat signal that Bethany was going to be on the show, and a lot of questions came in. A lot of stuff about Creator Series, a lot of stuff about teaching, a lot of stuff about her journey and chasing the craftsman, what it means to her, all those good things with through PPA, through imaging. So I'm just going to hit it off. So we talked about before we ended part one, you said that you felt the quote you said to yourself was being in the place where you were meant to be. Going into that, transitioning into teaching, when did you know, like, what inspired you to become an instructor, to go from student to instructor? Because you had, again, a fast turnaround of being a photographer, learning the game, and then you're already teaching like really fast, like just a couple years later. So it's been pretty fast for you. Tell me about that transition and tell me about what inspired you to take that leap.
Yeah, there was a moment that you might have been there. I can't remember if you were there or not, but it was Shutterfest 2021 because we couldn't go 2020. And there were a lot of, understandably, last minute people who couldn't come for various reasons. A lot of people tested positive for COVID or things like that. And so I knew that Intuition had been, like, the people who were speaking at the Intuition booth, for whatever reason, there were just a bunch of them that couldn't come. And I love Becky from Intuition. And I knew she'd be scrambling. And so I ran up and I said, look, I don't know what I can do. Like, can I hold backdrops? Do you need me to, like, come out and just be a person on the floor for a little bit? And she said, can you demo? And I was like, can I? What? And she was like, please, can you demo? And I just, in that moment, it didn't occur to me that I was teaching. It occurred to me that I was helping my friends who couldn't be there because I knew that they felt really bad about not being able to be there. And that I was helping my friend Becky, fill some spots at her booth. And I didn't even think about it. I was just like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then I was like, wait a minute, who wants to listen to me? Like, they wanted to listen to Karen. They didn't care about me. It's like, I'm going to be such a disappointment. And I psyched myself out about it. And then all of a sudden, the Shutterfest app updated like the next day. And it was like, come see Bethany Ellen's demo. And I was like, no, what are we doing? Like, I don't have any experience with this. And I made my friend Jenny Pollitt, who took my wedding photos, I made her come sit in the front row because I was afraid that there wouldn't be anybody there. And I said, if I'm talking to no one, can I at least talk to you? And she said, of course, because she's the sweetest and the best. And then I had turned around to like make sure the model looked good. Like, I had put a fake belly on her. And so I was just like kind of like getting things set up. And I turned back around and there was a humongous crowd. And I was like, where did you all come from?
Why are you here?
And I started it out, and I think I said something like, I know you all were expecting Karen Bagley here today. Unfortunately, you've got Aldi brand Karen Bagley. I've learned under her. I respect her, but she can't be here, and I'm doing my best. And I looked way back in the crowd, and Janai Gaines was watching me.
Yep.
And I was like, holy shit. The smile on Janai's face is like everything, and you could just see the pride. And I was like, maybe this is what I'm meant to do next. And, we had done some like demos and stuff, and people had come and taken some pictures. And I was getting those moments that I had my first Shutterfest where I was gasping at the images they were taking. And it felt so full circle. And everybody felt so good about that I was like, okay, fine. I'll apply to teach. I'll apply to do this. And then that's kind of where it all started.
It's funny. Mine is very similar to yours. It was actually last year's Shutterfest. Homespun Heart needed people to fill in and teach pop-up classes. And I remember somebody just saying, get Marvin. He's got an underground following. You know, he's coming into his own or whatever. You just give him a spot. You know, just let him have the 20 minutes, whatever. And I remember I had 3 models. I had the wings on there. I was switching. I was just going over flow pose and doing different things or whatever. And I remember taking that glance back, and then I saw like that whole crowd of people jumping in, taking the pictures, asking questions, asking me to redo this. And I was getting that like, oh, this is what it's like to be on the other side. And here I am, like anytime I work with models and then people around me, that's just natural habitat. Like, I'm going to take pictures. I'm going to have somebody take a picture, show them what I did, show them, you know, I do, you do, we do type thing or whatever. And just being able to do that was fun. But then to look up and see like 25, 30 people, you know, that moment you're like, oh, this is insane. Cause I'm used to like 2 or 3 people, and it has
Right.
so I know that feeling, cause I just felt it last year, and that gave me that bug to, yeah, one day I will be on a stage teaching somewhere. And I know it's going to come. My time's going to come when it's ready, you know, but in the meantime, I'm just going to continue getting myself ready for those moments. But back to you though. So when teaching, what was that? Like, you talked about, you know, you had Jenny in the front, who, by the way, Jenny's a friend of the show, love her to death. And you had her sit in front, which is a smart move. Talk to a friend, have a friendly face, so in case you get nervous or you draw a blank, you have somebody that you can look at and get a reference point from. But when during your journey with teaching, have you had that moment where you're like, you know, when did you have that? This is what I'm meant to do. This is, you know, a part of what it's going to become, who I am, as along with photography itself.
Yeah. I think last year Shutterfest was a little rough. And I never want to complain about the event. It just was kind of like a culmination of a couple different things, a couple different hiccups that happened that will always happen when you're doing things live. And I was pretty frustrated, and not frustrated at anybody but me. It was just more of like can I do this? Am I really cut out for this? Like, is it just me screwing things up? And I was worried that people weren't getting, you know, a good experience out of it. And it's really hard to do hands-on classes anytime, anywhere. I mean, I've done hands-on classes with PPA. I've done hands-on classes with just by myself. And it's just hard. You can't always control everything. Or if you could, it probably wouldn't be a hands-on class. Like, you can't control how people receive the information. You sometimes can't control where the class takes place. And so I think a couple people were frustrated. And I had heard, my sister had heard, because my sister was my assistant, some folks who didn't have a great experience, and they were kind of sharing at the bar how much they didn't like it, and me. And that kind of hurt. And so then I was kind of frustrated. I had cried to Ning, because that's what I do, is I go to Ning and I cry. And he was like, no, you're a great teacher. It's fine. And I had one more class to do, and it was our avant-garde maternity class. And I just like turned it around, and I think I told everybody, like, you know what? We're going to have a good experience today because I'm protective of your experience. And if there's anything I can do to make that better and it's in my control, I promise to make it happen. I promise if there are things outside of my control that I didn't deliberately put them there. And I said, you know what? I drew on my friend Blake, who lives here. We go to this holiday party every year, and or we used to, and he would come in, and I don't know where it started, but he would just start yelling, hell yeah, bro. And that's a very Ohio thing to do, is to just start yelling like Hulk Hogan. And okay. I said, you know what? I come from Ohio, and we have this phrase that we all like to say, which is, hell yeah, brother. Can I get a hell yeah, brother? And I was like, if you take an image today that makes you excited, that makes you gasp, I want you to yell out, hell yeah, brother. And I want to come see it, and I want everybody to kind of encourage you along with it. And it was just something that I had ad-libbed, and I was like, they're going to think I'm really weird, but I am really weird, so that's on them.
But Shutterfest is weird, so yeah, the whole...
weird.
Yeah,
and,
very crazy.
All of a sudden, you could just hear people, and we were in a much better venue in that class, but you could just hear people yelling, hell yeah, high-fiving each other, and just, like... It's making the dog upset that I'm screaming.
Nah, I love it.
Yeah, no, my dog's like, you're yelling. So everybody was just yelling and high-fiving, and the energy was so palpable. I think I told everybody at the end of that class, I was like, you guys just sold me on doing hands-on classes again, because I really thought I was done with them, and you guys turned it around with your just the great community that we built there. And it was such a breath of fresh air that I was like, okay, I can do this. I just have to have a little bit thicker skin. And that's all part of the lessons you learn.
Yeah, and I think just from my experiences, I've seen that there's different parts of our journey, especially when we'll just speak on Shutterfest singularly right now. It's that the first timer trying to find their place, or the people that are new to Shutterfest, they're going to be trying to find their place. Then there's going to be the people that have been there for a while that kind of know the little bit of lay of the land. They've made some real good connections. Then you have the people that are transitioning to the ones that want to possibly become instructors one day, or now they're getting years underneath their belt and they're just trying to dial it all in. And then you have the ones that kind of started, now they're teaching, now they're doing these things. Then you have the instructors that have been teaching, the tenured ones that have been there for a long time, that become a staple of Shutterfest, things like that. But I always say the biggest thing is you can't compare what you got going on with the next person. You never know who the next major name is going to be. You could be in a class one day, and then the next year that person you were standing next to is now teaching, and they, because their journey took them on that trajectory, things like that. So I've always encouraged, and in some ways, kind of made it mandatory that you're going to go there and you're going to have a good time, and you're going to force yourself to be better, force yourself to do things that you normally don't do, go to the bar a few more times, make a few more connections. And I'm a big advocate of that because of my first experiences at some of the first conferences I ever went to. And then I come to this thing and I kind of found my own tribe, so to speak. I found my people, and the going around the hell yeah brother, the inside joke, that's the thing that made it so special. When what's the type of feeling you get when you've got that one student and you could just see them transitioning into a better photographer? What's
Oh,
what's
it's
that journey
electric.
like? It
It's
is.
the best. I've had a couple, and it's a feeling you can't describe. It's just like such an out of body thing of watching them realize. And I've always said my entire goal, whether it's the photos I take, the students I teach, is to help people realize their own potential. And so it doesn't matter if, your skill has improved. What has really sings to my soul is when I watch people realize what they're capable of. And
Okay.
I've had the privilege of getting to experience that every single year I've taught, and it makes me emotional. And I've already pointed out I'm a crier, so I'm gonna stop talking on that. But I've seen it, and it's great.
Well, then now to not tear you up, but who was the instructor that gave you those feelings that you just described?
Oh, for me, that was Karen Bagley,
Okay.
100%. Um, and it was also Sal. Sal, I think, took me a minute because I was terrified. And I do remember there was one Shutterfest where I was trying to do something like difficult with lighting. I was up in that like area where the elevator is on the very top floor, where it's like all the iron rot, and it just wasn't hitting right. And I hear this guy in my ear. He clapped and he went, "Show me what you got." And I like immediately was like, I don't care who this man is. He's not about to explain anything to me that I don't know. I knew nothing. And then it was Sal. And from then on, I could kind of like build a connection with him better. And he was like, light in is light out. And he showed me exactly where to hold the light. By the time we got to Creator Series, I think I will always be a little bit terrified of Sal in a different way now. But those were the moments where it really like, it hit home that he wasn't just there to encourage. He was there to push. And there was one episode where he looked at me after my 10 minutes was up and he was like, "You've got me frustrated right now." And I had never heard that from an instructor before. And he was like, "The way you just hyper focused on that one shot and you didn't move, I hope you're happy with that shot because you have no other options. I watched you sit there. It was agonizing, Bethany." And I was like, "Oh, that hurts." And Karen's been the same way. And Karen, I have gone down for a couple of her classes outside of conferences. And I think there was one time when she looked at me and she said, "You're done taking my classes." She's like, "Why did you even take this class?" And I was like, "Because I missed you." And she's like, "That's not a reason to take a class. You want to take a class because you want to learn. You are already past what I'm teaching right now. You need to go out and do." And that was a very real moment. And it's those instructors that can be so real with you, and it's beyond just they show you what you're capable of and then they challenge you to go out and do it. That is so meaningful.
And I think for me, with the when you mentioned like just Sal and Karen, just in general, I've learned that it comes from a place of love. That yeah, we're getting yelled at. Yeah, we may get with the stern talkings, whatever you want to call it. I know some people avoid certain instructors because they're afraid of the backlash, and we all like like true students, we want to make the people that have taught us proud. Like anytime I do a wedding, I think to myself, what does Sal do? What does Michael do? The people that have poured into me to make me better. And when I say make me better, am I the best out there? No, but I'm definitely making a great living doing what I do. And so the people that have in the past, the Kaya Maries, the people that have poured into me and given me their time, when I can't do it for myself, I do it for them. I do it to remind,
Exactly.
as that constant reminder that the work you put into me was not for nothing. Even when I don't feel like it and I wanted to phone it in, I can still deliver a great image, a great product, or whatever, a great experience to my clients because I know it's what you demanded out of me. And every time I pick up the camera, I'm always reminded that it is a privilege. It is definitely a pleasure, and it's definitely an honor to be able to hold that camera and do what I do, because one bad accident, one bad day, all that could be taken away, and I have to remind myself and sometimes remind others that don't take what we get to do for granted. We get to create these amazing images. We get to have the coolest job in the world and get to tell cool stories and have these cool journeys and get to travel the world doing what we love doing. I mean, like, again, I never thought I was going to shoot maternity. I just thought I was going to be a really bomb wedding photographer, maybe do a couple portraits. And then, I'm coming full circle to where I'm on the verge of doing a wedding for a client where I did her wedding when I first started almost 10 years, or when I really came into my own back in 2015, when I started coming into my own. And now here we are almost 10 years later. And she's already telling me, I think my oldest daughter, because her daughter was 10 at the time, is in a serious relationship. She might be getting married. We're going to hire you. And she's like, you're going to come full circle because you would have done my wedding and then you would have done my daughter's wedding. And I was like, how cool is that? Because I've done your wedding. I've done a maternity session. I did your daughter's senior session. Like, I remember a couple years ago when I did her senior portrait. And I just said, dude, this is weird to me because I saw you as a little girl, as a flower
Right.
girl. Seems like yesterday you were a little flower girl. Now here I am doing your senior session. And now here I am a couple years later, might be doing her wedding soon. So it's like, this is crazy, but this is the cool journey that we get to be on. So I definitely know where you're coming from when you having those instructions pour into you and push you. And I say this with to anyone out there listening: when you're learning, don't let the hard talks, to frustrate you or deter you, because those hard talks might be the best hard talks you ever will need because it'll make you better. So
Oh yeah.
develop.
And I tell people, like, I wouldn't yell at anybody I don't care about.
Exactly.
Like, if somebody is truly pouring into you and pushing you like that, they care, and you should take note.
And I think that's what's so special, like not becoming like, and how do you so with managing, because you want to do your own work that's going to be passion free. That's why I said there's two separate sides of it. There's the photography side of what we do as photographers. And then there's that teaching side. There's a whole nother element to this industry. So now you as an instructor now going, and I'm really hitting a lot of your journey as an instructor, because a lot of questions, that I got from fan questions are about either creator series or you instructing. So yes,
fan questions are so funny to me.
Well, no, here's a direct question: was what's your favorite thing about teaching?
Favorite thing about teaching, other than getting an excuse to yell "Hell yeah, brother" in the middle of a really nice place, would be those moments when students like unlock something in themselves, and like they'll either come up and tell me about it, or sometimes I've just watched people have like a private little moment with themselves, and I know what they're doing in their heads, and it's so magical for me. Those little nuggets are why I will continue to teach.
Okay, nice. Another question was, what has been your favorite shoot thus far?
I love all
That's
of
that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Like,
I love all of my shoots for various reasons. I don't know if I could pick.
have you gone to any locations that are just like created a memory for you?
Every location creates a memory for me, and I never stop talking. So, I will say one of them that I really, really loved was an image that gets like a lot of weird blowback online. It's an image that I have of my favorite person, one of my favorite people in the whole world, in a rainbow butterfly skirt. And if you don't know, a rainbow baby is a baby born after loss or miscarriage. And I got to do that for my friend Jenny Pollitt, who then turned around and did my wedding. And she is one of the first ever friends I made in this industry. And so to get to do that for her was just magical. I'm trying to think of like another one that really sticks out to me. There are so many. So many. Now I'm like looking back at my walls for inspiration.
I'm trying to peek at your Instagram right now, see which one I can see. Like, and it's funny.
Back at me is like chaos because it's conference season and I have a bunch of costumes. That's my wig from the pandemic characters party a couple years ago. I went as a golden girl, and I just have the wig, and I don't know what to do with it. And that is my husband's outfit. I made him for the Eras tour, so that's not going to help you. Oh, I will say, okay, here's another one I love. I got to learn a little bit about underwater photography, and it's not necessarily something I feel comfortable teaching yet, just because I still have a lot to learn. But there was an underwater session that I got to do with my friend Emma, who's super awesome. We put her in this figure skating outfit, and we just sunk under the water for like an hour or two, and it was magical. And I love those images still.
Okay. So this one was not a fan question, but then it triggered a question when you said the word eras. I know you were a Swiftie, so what is your favorite Taylor Swift album?
Oh my God, I'm a huge Swiftie. I'll talk about Taylor. We'll just turn this into a Taylor Swift podcast. And everyone hates that. But no, my favorite album is Folklore. I think it's her best work. It really, really connected with me during the pandemic. It has inspired a lot of sessions that I have. My husband, because I bought floor seats to the Eras tour, and I got them first try on Ticketmaster, so I am God's favorite. But I told him, you're not getting floor seats without deciding what your favorite album is either. So he went through and he listened to every album, and he made a ranking chart of each album to figure out what album girly he is. And he is through and through a Midnight's girly.
Okay.
What about you, Marvin?
You know what? I can't answer that one truthfully and honestly, because my enjoyment of Taylor Swift is really just through my daughters. It is me just being... The best way to describe my fandom as a Swiftie is there was a meme that was out there, or it wasn't a meme, it was a video, and it said, tell me you're a girl dad without telling me you're a girl dad. And it said all the dads waiting for their daughters at the Taylor Swift concert. And it shows all these dads, t-shirts, cargo shorts, New Balance shoes or sandals, or some type of golf shorts and a polo shirt or whatever. So it was like all these typical dad, and all of us just sitting there on our phones, texting our daughters, or whatever. And I just go, yep, that's me. But the cool thing is the best thing I can say about being, I guess, a semi-Swiftie or whatever you want to call it is the times I got to drive with my daughter and she's jamming away at Taylor Swift, not a care in the world, and just kind of seeing her at a happy place. I say, you know what? I'll take that all day. And if that means I got to listen to everything from 1989 to her, to Red, to Folklore, to Midnights, to whatever, you know what? I'll take it because it gives me quality time with my kiddo when we're in the car. It's a lot better than her being in the back seat, texting, saying how much she hates being in the car with me, versus we're having conversations. She's talking about traveling and all of her dreams. It's like, you know what? I'll take it. I get quality conversations and quality time with her. And I got to witness my daughter go batshit crazy when she announced that she's coming out with another album in April. And she was like, please, will you get it for me? I'm like, yeah, I'd rather
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
I was at a bar in Mexico. I was in Mexico on a client shoot.
That's where you were. Okay.
I was in Mexico, and we were at this resort. So we weren't like in remote areas of Mexico by any means. We were at an all-inclusive resort, and they had different restaurants. And I said something like, the Grammys are on and Taylor's going. And my husband was like, you are not watching the Grammys when we are in Mexico. You are going to enjoy your vacation. We ended up at this sports bar, and they had the Grammys, but they didn't have sound on because they were playing like games on other TVs, but they had one TV with it. And I watched her go up to that stage, and she's holding that Grammy, and I recognize the smiles that she does before she announces something. And that's how, like, what a deep level of Swiftie I am. I've been at this game for 15 years. Like, I'm insufferable. You can't make me not like her. She did that smile, and I turned around and I smacked my husband, and I said, something, and you didn't let me watch it. And like all of the people we were with were like, what's going on? And then my phone started blowing up. So yeah, and it will come out when I'm in Spain. So I get to have this new Taylor Swift album in Spain. I'm fully prepared to be insufferable. We have to end the Taylor Swift talk here, or I won't.
We will. Yes, this is not a Taylor. This is not a Taylor Swift podcast. But if it does bring me a few more fans, then I'll take it. To all the Swifties out there, I am an honorary Swiftie due to my daughters. And yes, I have listened to Taylor Swift behind their back. I'll never admit that. I just think I did. So, anyways, it is what it is. So
we'll have to make you a couple friendship bracelets.
Oh God, there it is. I'm gonna do that for my daughters for sure. But so going back, okay. Gosh, I lost my train of thought. We start talking about Taylor Swift. Okay, so looking at you like different levels of, and I see like I see Karen Bagley influences on some of your images and everything like that. What was it about maternity? And like I remember your avant-garde maternity class last year. I was supposed to go there. That was the last year Shutterfest is when I went there for 2 days, flew back to shoot
You
a
flew
wedding,
back.
and then I flew back the next day. Everyone was like, "Dude, you are psycho," and I was like, "Dude,
You are psycho.
I love, the thing is, anytime I'm behind the camera, it's my happy place. That is, people talk about safe spaces or things that, give them that smile or whatever. And you can ask my wife, you can ask people around me that know me best. They've seen my most genuine smiles when I'm behind that camera. So anytime, as long as I can keep holding that camera, I'm going to always do it. But, so maternity, I mean, obviously, it's just safe to say maternity is what you're known for. What was it about maternity that made you, because it's definitely, it's not a niche genre, but it's definitely a genre like there's got to be some special connection. So what is it about maternity that brought you in?
Yeah, and everybody always asks me that because my husband and I are very famously child-free by choice. Like, we are not planning on doing kids. And so they're like, that's extra weird to me. And I'm like, that's fair. But that's just who I am. But what I liked about it, again, I didn't like it at first. I thought it was silly. And again, as somebody who doesn't want kids of my own, I just thought that couldn't be a genre that I could ever fit in. And that was the time when Karen was like, if it's boring, it's because you're photographing it boring. And I think that that's true of any genre that you might not be interested in because you find it boring. You might not find it as exciting as a different type of genre, but if it's boring, it could be a you problem. And so once she started to show me how maternity breaks a lot of rules, in what other time in women's portraiture are you going to say, stick your belly out? Enhance your belly, put your hands on your belly. The fact that you could break so many rules about it, I think as a just resident annoying person, really spoke to me of like, oh, I could be different. I could be fun. And then once I got more comfortable with it, it really was just a very cool way to see my clients like at their rawest and their realest. I mean, weddings, you do see people at their rawest and realest. And let me tell you, I had a full-blown panic attack on my wedding day. And it happens, right? And it's so heightened, but maternity, I feel, and newborn especially, is so much more of an intimate rawness. And it's a privilege to be able to document my client's journey through parenthood. And we don't hate kids, we just don't want them of our own. So like getting to be fun, like the fun aunt for me, like the fun aunt with a camera, I get to see my clients grow up and I get to see them I'm now on my rounds of my first clients are now having their second kids. And so they're calling me and coming back. And that truly is like the coolest thing to me, is watching a whole family grow and getting to be a part of that in some way.
Pictures and I see, like I said, and it's easy to get in over your head. So I guess the real question isn't what tips do you have, but what guidance would you provide somebody so they could avoid getting in over their head?
Well, first of all, I'm still in over my head. I'm like an expert about being in over my head. I don't think I've come above water in like 5 years. So can't help you there. But what I will say is that so many times I think people, how do I say this? And maybe I'll just have to say it and deal with the repercussions. So many people want to infantilize pregnant women or like make them look smaller, because obviously the body is temporary. And so a lot of times women feel insecure, but sometimes people feel that the way to fix that is to shoot down on a woman because they think that makes them look skinnier. Like they'll get taller and have the women, like they'll photograph them from an angle where they are shooting down. And I have found that I think pregnancy is one of the most interesting things that a body can go through. I think it is one of the most intricate processes. It's the weirdest process. If you ever Google pregnancy symptoms, like the things that come up terrify me on those lists. And it's such a crazy thing. Like, why are we photographing it all the same? Why are we going into a grassy field and putting baby shoes on the baby pump? And, why? I guess my question is
all the cliche Pinterest board things. Yeah.
And that's where it gets boring, is you're like, because you photographed it just like her best friend did and just like her best friend did, when it's like, this is such a badass process. Make it as badass as possible, and that's why I get these cool gowns and I, photograph from a lower angle. I make them look taller. I make them look like royalty. My favorite was I had a client who was, my shortest client to date was 4'9". And I got, down with my fisheye lens, and I got down on the ground, and I had used the distortion right, and I looked at her and I said, girl, you look 8 feet tall right now. And she said, I'm gonna tell you right now, I can guarantee you nobody's ever said that to me. And I was like, yeah, that's why I do what I do. So just focus on, and if you can't make the difficult lighting work, if you can't make the difficult gowns work just yet, don't feel like you have to. What matters more is making that person and that family in the moment feel included and feel awesome and badass. If you've done that, you've done your job. You will grow as an artist.
Nice. Okay. Man. The thing is, you're answering, like, the way you're answering these questions, like, some of them are like you're canceling out the next question, or you're canceling that one. No, it's not a bad thing. It's like, so whoever's that sent in, they're gonna hear that, they're like, well, she answered my question without, even though I should have been like, so and so asked, but no, I don't want to put people on. I didn't ask if I
Don't
could get
put
their
anybody
permission.
on blast.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, aside from attorneys, I know that you've done some amazing weddings before, and I know you've done, a little bit of everything. And it's much like me, but I mean, it's like you're known for maternity, but you could shoot different things.
I shoot everything,
like
and I try to shoot everything at least once a year to stay relevant on it.
Same with me. It's like I'm known for weddings, but I've done maternities because my brides get knocked up. Yes, keep it up. I like shooting maternity because they're fun, and I like being on that journey. But like, even like with my challenge when I jumped into boudoir, it was not something by design. It wasn't like, oh, I wanted to shoot boudoir. It's like, no, I went in with every preconceived, like, I'm a guy. There's already enough issues out there. Ever since Me Too, I don't want to put myself in any particular, predicaments. But it's like, yes, I know I'm good at it. I know I do well at it. I know I have certain eyes, and I'm willing to take those risks to create great images. But I said, it's not something I'm going to market for or do it, but it just kind of came with the territory. I had brides that would call me up, hey, I want to do a naughty lookbook. Do you know anyone that could do it? I'm like, yeah, I could do that. And then I show them my samples. They're like, oh my God, you did that? And then they're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. They're like, can you make me look like that? Absolutely. It's like, and then I get to be, I like that. The reason I like boudoir so much is because it gives me a creative challenge. And for me, it's the challenges that that excite me. It's not so much the, what I accomplish. It's those challenges. It's that process. It's that journey to get to that finish line that I enjoy the most. So, with weddings, I've gotten to a point where part of me, sometimes I feel like, oh, it's a walk in the park. And then when I start feeling that way, I now got to create those creative challenges to avoid having that attitude of like, yeah, I've shot this video 100 times. I know what I'm doing. No, how can I make this look even more different? How can I make it look more amazing? Or as you said, if it's boring, it's because you're shooting boring. And, yes, I can always do the traditional poses and this, that, but how can I make this just look amazing? And now I have brides that are going out of their way to buy long veils, to get longer dresses because they saw that veil shot. And they're like, oh, if this guy's my photographer, I got to get that long veil. And, and if they don't have a long veil, I run out to my car and go get a long veil and say, hey, can you put this on real quick for one shot, just for my own ego? And they'll trust me. They'll do it. And then they're like, dude, he took us underneath this tree. We did this veil shot. I grabbed my 15, but, and I don't even have an assistant. I'm just doing it, swinging it myself and having fun with it. So, gosh, it segues to my next question. What have you done over the years to, I think we kind of shone on it earlier, but to really just go in depth with this question, what is it that you've done to keep having fun at what you're doing?
I would say that there are times when, and I just talked about this with a student not too long ago. The first thing is understanding when you've gone too hard. And if you're just frustrated and nothing's coming out creatively and you're burnout and you're bored and you're mad about it, take a break. And I tell people, like, nobody's going to die if they don't get their photos done by you. And that's a check to your own ego, and it hurts. But put yourself in timeout, 48 hours. Usually 48 hours does it for me. I try to make sure that, like, Sundays are kind of sacred to me. So I really try really hard not to do Sunday shoots. And it could be any day, whatever works for you. But for me, it's just Sunday because my husband's home. And I try to make it a point. Like, I wake up early. I try to wake up slowly, get a cup of coffee, deep clean the house, like prep everything for the week. So that way I'm energized and I'm not constantly spinning my wheels. Part of that is giving in to weird impulses and like just letting yourself be a weirdo. So like the other day we were walking through the mall and I saw this really cool display in like one of the mall windows and I stopped and I looked at it And my husband was like, do you want that outfit? Because we were clothes shopping. And he's like, do you want to like look at that outfit? And I said, no, I want to ask them when they're done with that display if I can have it for a shoot. And he's like, stop it.
Don't think about work. You know, mine is
exactly.
Stop measuring light. Stop walking into a room and saying to yourself, ISO 1200.
Yep. And he watches me do that. So like if we go somewhere and I'm like looking around and I'm like squinting, he'll go, stop taking a picture in your mind right now. Just look. And I find hobbies, because this was a big one for me. Photography was my hobby until it wasn't. And the minute you start charging people, photography is no longer your hobby. It doesn't matter if it's your side hustle, but it's not your hobby. So you have to have something that makes you a person, because otherwise you will become a robot. You will just become, I'm a photographer. And they go, oh, cool, my cousin does photography. And you're like, that's cool. And then they'll be like, can you come and bring your camera? Or like, you know, it's all you can talk about. And you want to have other traits. So whatever that is, go for a walk. I read a lot. I'm a big reader. I always have my nose in a book. And that, I think, inspires a lot of the creative concepts that I do, especially reading fantasy and stuff like that. You know, garden, do something, but it can't be photography or photography related. It's got to be something else.
Oh, yeah. I have my things outside of it. Mine, you know, shockingly, cooking is one of them. I love cooking for my kids, cooking in general. I love when my daughter comes up to me with a, Dad, can you make this? She'll show me a recipe and I'm like, yeah, and I look at it and I put my own twist on it. And then I, you know, get the comparison. And then it's like, I get a kick out of when she tells me I can never go to a steakhouse ever again, because she went to a steakhouse, like her friend's, you know, birthday dinner was at a steakhouse. They got to order whatever steak they wanted. And she literally was like, it's not good.
It's not as good as my dad.
And the thing is, her friend was saying that they were both saying, because they both eating at my house. It was her and her two friends. They're going, dude, your dad's food is way better. And they're like, and this is the birthday girl saying that. She didn't want to say that in front of print, but she leaned. She's like, dude, your dad's steak's way better. And she's like, I know. She's like, you want him to have us cook something when we get back? She's like, dude, yeah, can he cook tomorrow? So like the next day, I made steak, and they were just like, you know, oh, we're so much better. But speaking of having hobbies and, you know, talking and everything about what's next, I did want to ask this one question, because, you know, I'm trying to pull it up now and it won't let me do it.
I just want to say, while we're waiting on that, my dad makes the best shrimp Alfredo you've ever had in your life. And that is what I look forward to.
Challenge accepted.
I know. That is what I look for when you're like, your dad's food's better. I just think of my dad's shrimp Alfredo.
Oh, it's the best. I mean, like, you know, again, it's relaxing. I get to put things together to create something. And it's kind of funny that it's the opposite spectrum, like with photography. It's I'm putting together lighting and composition and posing to create this image. And then with cooking is I'm putting together this seasoning with this protein and you're adding the starch and doing that to create a meal.
It's all salt, acid, fat, heat. It's just in a different kind of creative concept.
What I was trying to do is pull up your classes for Shutterfest, because I was going to ask, this was actually a fan question. It was I know because saying fan question, but I keep saying it.
Fan question.
It said, what can we expect with your classes, especially bare bones to badass?
Oh, I'm so excited for bare bones to badass. So bare bones to badass kind of is inspired by Creator Series, but obviously I try to do things a little bit different. So I would say if you're coming to my classes, you better be ready to be a team player, because I'm not here for anybody's personal photo shoots, not even mine. So bare bones to badass, you're going to work in a team. I have arranged for, if we're going to have, based on how many people are in the class, I've arranged for about one model per 5 people. That model is instructed to come in a basic tank top and shorts, like biker shorts. And you will have racks and racks of my clothes and my props and all of my things. The trick is you will be working with your 5 people. You will get a limited amount of time to develop your concept. You will get a limited amount of time to shoot that concept. You will get a limited amount of time to edit that concept, and you will turn in. So bring your laptop. That has been a question. But you will turn in an image to me. And I'm not saying it has to be the greatest thing you've ever done. It doesn't have to be your magnum opus. I've had a lot of questions about whether or not you even need to use Lightroom and Photoshop. And the answer to that is no. You could turn something in straight out of camera too. I'm not really worried about that. What I want to show everybody at the end of that, we're going to do a same day slideshow, just like you would do for a wedding. But it's going to be, you know, either up on my computer screen or depending on the venue, I might use a projector. It just depends on like lighting wise, if that's going to look good. But the idea is to see how many different perspectives of creativity will be seen within that class. So it should end on a good note. And then your model gets an image from you that minute. And it's not like go home and life gets ahead of us and everything. So the point is to work in a team, to push yourself creatively. And it's not going to be a who's the best at Photoshop game. It's truly going to be just a creativity, like adrenaline rush is kind of the goal. Money on Your Mind is going to be about photographing for all different pieces of art, because something I struggled with a lot when I first started shooting was that I could sell you a piece of wall art like nobody's business. As you can see, I'm a wall art girly. My house looks like an Applebee's. There's just like pictures and paintings and all kinds of things all over my house. But I could not sell an album to save the life of me. And it was because I wasn't shooting enough unique perspectives to fill an entire album. So the goal will be, and there are some people who can sell an album like nobody's business, but wall art is challenging for them. Or you could sell the wall art and the album, but how are you going to add on those additional products that add to a top package? So the challenge for Money on Your Mind is we're not going to have as many models, but it should be that you can find a couple of different unique perspectives that will allow you to sell an entire package. Now, granted, because there are going to be a lot of people in the class, I don't know if you'll walk away with like an entire full album, but hopefully you'll learn a couple of different ways that you can move yourself without moving your clients and get something completely new. So that way people can kind of rotate around is kind of the goal. And then the last class, which is near and dear to my heart, I actually have the slide deck behind me right now so I can see it, is So You Want to Quit Your Day Job. And it's because the first time I went to a Shutter event, I was so hooked, and it took me 3 years to quit my day job after that and to have a successful, profitable photography business that could support me and my family. The problem is that there are times when people jump too early. And I'm not saying that I did that. There were, to an extent there was, but I think that there are ways to do it, especially if you're in a job that you can tolerate. And in my case, I was not safe at the job that I was in. But if you have a plan, that way you can tell your boss that you're out of there, goodbye. And you don't have to be in a position where you have to consider ever coming back. So we're going to talk about building a plan on how to get your photography business to the point where it sustains you and exceeds your needs.
Okay. Next question. I'm actually excited for this one because I kind of was wanted to ask something similar to this one. It said, with your journey with CPP, it seems like it's been forgotten over the years. What made you pursue getting your CPP and all the accolades that comes with it, and what's pushing you to finish that process, because it's pretty lengthy?
I don't have the most politically correct answer to this, or diplomatic answer, I guess I would say. I got my CPP because I was bored. It was like height of the pandemic, and we couldn't go anywhere. And for a while, I was considered pretty high risk on COVID, and we didn't know what it would do. So like I had to quarantine a little bit longer than most people. So I was bored, and I found a way. Every job has benefits, and one of the benefits of my job at the time was some tuition reimbursement, and they had something through New York Institute of Photography. And New York Institute of Photography, whatever class I bought included either your first year of PPA or your CPP declaration or something like that. So like the process was there. I'd already heard about CPP, and I was like, well, I'm not doing anything else. I might as well do it. And that got me connected in PPA. And then I would say from there, I'm a girl who loves shiny things when it comes to academic achievements and medals and things. So I started getting interested in the master's process and the craftsman process. I got serious about it this year and really said, you know what, I'm just going to get both degrees in a year, because imaging this year, I guess it was last year I got serious about it, because this year imaging was in Louisville. And I have a lot of family in Louisville, and Louisville's pretty accessible to the people who would want to come. And I really wanted to walk the stage for both degrees. And so I said, heck it, I'm just going to do it. And I finished one merit short of my master's, paid $100 every month just to cry. Just kidding. I learned a lot from those critiques, but they were brutal. And I taught all over the country for my craftsmen. And I got into this point where I was like networking, and I was just like, I'll go anywhere. I don't care. I'll go anywhere. And I ended up in Portland, and I ended up in Florida, and I have some of the craziest stories from trying to travel to those places to teach. But we met some really incredible people who are now a part of my educational family. And so it was really cool. And I would say that it unlocked a lot of things within me. It's a grueling process. And I'm not saying that there are a lot of opinions on whether or not it's worth it, or the other benefits that are a part of PPA. And I really loved Laura Biddle's answer on this a couple of days ago. I had seen her say something about it. She said, look, I understand that there are other benefits out there, but I wasn't a part of this industry for so many years. I just did my thing. She said, I joined this for me. I earned this for me. And I think that's kind of where I'm at too, is like, to me, it was important to have, so I went after it. But if it's not important to you, it's not going to make you, a lesser of a photographer for doing so.
Yeah, I think my perspective on it is I've always been a PPA member, just because when I first started, I needed insurance. It was one of the cheapest insurances for me out there.
Yes.
They have saved my butt multiple times when dealing with crazy clients that decide they're going to sue you. So, I don't have anything bad to say about the insurance side of things. I've heard good and bad. For me, though, recently somebody said, if you ever plan on teaching, why would somebody want to consider you if you can't even go out and get your credentials? And he was saying, like, your CPPs. And I was like, well, most of the places I go to that I see, a lot of people don't have their credentials. He goes, yeah, and that's a damn shame. And I was just like,
I don't know if that's...
and that's kind of where I was at. Like, I think it's a perspective thing. I think it's one of those, like, depending on the crowd you're at. Like, I could get why an Imaging USA wouldn't want to touch anybody that hasn't gone in through their system and got certified and did all that stuff. I could understand if that was their reasoning behind it. But I mean, like, not to be mean, there's a ton of Shutterfest instructors. There's a ton of WPPI advisors. The cook at all these different conferences they have. Half of them are not CPP. Half of them don't have the certification. Half of them don't have the pins on their lanyards.
Well, and I always feel really weird about, I don't know. I would say too, like, clients don't automatically know what a CPP is.
Exactly.
In fact, I have a jacket. My father-in-law got me a jacket a couple years ago that had certified professional photographer on it, because I had earned my CPP that year, and he got it for me, I think, as a Christmas gift. And I wore it to a shoot, and somebody thought it was a joke. Like, they really were like, oh, certified professional photographer. And I was like, no, this was like a real thing, like a real test. And it was really hard, and be nice to me. And then he felt bad. He really thought that, like, it was kind of like a gag gift. And so it's on us to educate clients or other students on what that title actually means. But this industry isn't regulated, and that's the beauty of it. It's not standardized. So it is accessible to a lot of people who have a lot of passion, but it's ultimately a journey that you take and that you go on. And if you aren't a better person by the end of it, then it wasn't worth it, but it's not going to be worth it to anybody else until it means something to you.
Okay. So if somebody was to say, you know what, they wake up tomorrow and go, you know what, heard the podcast, love it, I want to go for my CPP, I want to try to get as much as I can get done in a year, what tips would you have for them in that aspect?
I printed out the study guide that I found. I don't remember if I purchased the study guide or if I had found it through somebody. All I know is that it was a PDF, and I paid the printer money, and I printed that sucker out, memorized it back and forth. Do not take the test as a benchmark to see if you could pass and then go on. I would study hard for that test. But the real heartbreak on it is the image evaluation. And that's where I struggled the most. And they give you, the thing about it is they give you the requirements. They're very clear on what they want. It's up to you to make it happen. And that's the part where you'll really start to feel the knowledge from the test take place. And I noticed after I took that test and after I sent in my image evaluation, I had a shoot the very next day. It was on an infinity wall. So there was no additional lighting. It was me. And all of a sudden I could feel my brain going, my light needs to be at this power and the backlight needs to be at this power, because I had done all that work on the test. And that's when it really solidified it that was worth it to me, is because I was more confident in what I was doing. And I wasn't necessarily like going and then looking at the back of my camera and going, well, that's not right. I don't know what to do. And like playing around, there was none of that. It was like, oh, I do this.
Nice. Okay, because I'm gonna hit you because I'm actually like I said, this year I'm gonna at least get the test done and try to get the imaging done. The short term goal is try to have it all done by the summer so I can start focusing on the other things. Getting some more teaching underneath my belt and everything. So I'm gonna hit you up for some stuff offline about that for sure.
Yeah.
Next question: what has been the favorite class you've ever taken?
And I've taken a lot of classes. Oh no. Does it have to be a Shutterfest class or can it be
It could be anything.
anywhere?
They didn't specify. So
Okay. I hate to commit to a favorite. I would say that things that stick out to me are the underwater class I got to take with Karen
okay.
a couple summers ago. And that stuck out to me for a couple of personal reasons too, just because Karen and I and Andrew and I got to connect. And I got to stay with my uncle in Atlanta, so I got to like see some other family, and we got to go through some old family photos, and just like seeing the legacy of photographs was fun. I really have loved Project Obscura. I'm so excited to get to go back to Project Obscura because I think that's where it all started for me.
Okay.
And I love going out in the desert.
I can't wait for this. And it's only in a few days for us. Like by the
I
time,
know, I can't
by the time
believe
everyone
it.
gets to hear it, they're gonna already like it's already gonna happen, and
It's already over.
But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to have my daughter there with me. I'm excited to like because I really wanted her to see like the world that created the world that she lives in, the world that she gets to call her life and everything. I really wanted her to see what was it that provided that world to exist, not in an egotistical way, but it's just like, all those times you wondered where dad was at or whatever, like understand that there was a purpose behind it. It was always to give you a better life. It was always for you to, be in the position you're in today where you're like, this is the college I'm going to, and I'm not worried about paying for it because this is the trips to the desert, all these creative shoots that I did that I was able to bring home and recreate for my clients. This is what pays those bills. And I wanted her to see that. Plus I just want to spend that time with her. And she
It's
likes
almost like show and tell in a way.
where
It's like
she loves creating content and everything. So like this, I'm gonna let her shoot a lot of behind the scenes stuff and just get to really take it all in. So I'm excited about that.
My husband's like that because a lot of people see my husband online, but my husband's never seen me teach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like he doesn't want to come. It's just like with his schedules and with my schedule, it's a lot of travel that he can't always do. And it was last year, I think somebody walked right up to me and they're like, "I'm glad you're here, but like, where's your husband?" And I had to be like, "He's not here." And they were like, "You promised he would be here." And I'm like, "Look, man, I know." But
I've always intentionally kept my family separate because I view this like, this is my work. And it's like, if I worked a corporate job, I wouldn't bring my family to work every day. So it was just one of those, this is my work, is my career. This is mine. This is all mine.
Yeah, no.
All I've ever wanted for her, my family, was just, understand that there's a purpose behind what I do, and just, I need your support. So when I'm gone, I'm not, feeling bad about providing for us. But, there have been times where I've had my wife in the mix, I've had my kids in the mix, and, while my wife see me, she's like, seeing you behind like she said, when you're behind the camera, I see you come alive. That's the level that, I've seen your intensity. Like I've seen the other aspects of your life, but then I really get to see it as a photographer. So she loves that. And she was like, no, we don't want to interfere. We want you to just do your thing and then come home when you're not holding the camera. You're just enjoying being dad and being husband and all those good things.
Yeah.
So
I think for them, I think my husband is starting to give he goes to another school energy where like, I don't think people think he's real. They're always like, "Where is he?" And I'm like, "Can't be here. I'm sorry." But like, I always post about him and stuff. So I will be excited the day he actually gets to come and see me teach someday.
Nice.
It's not this year, but someday.
I think, I got years before like my kids actually come see, but it would be a cool thing that if I was teaching one day and then my daughter decided that, hey, I'm going to go check out this conference that my dad's teaching at, but not tell him. And then I just look out there mid sentence, I see her in the crowd.
Oh, I'd lose
that
it.
Would be,
I would lose
that
it.
would be a full circle, like, oh my God moment. Cause like she's going to go to school in Louisiana and there's a lot of opportunities out there for me to teach in Louisiana. And I could just, that'd be a cool story to have or whatever. But will it happen? Don't know.
Who knows?
Right. Step one is to really get in the mix of where I'm teaching somewhere. I've had those little pop-ups, I've done the photo walks and all that stuff, but now it's bringing it all together. I'm just trying to figure out for me that pathway. And like I said, luckily I have enough friends that was on the same journey that are now teaching. So I get to pick y'all's brain, which is really cool. So who was when you decided to teach? This question is actually from me. When you decided to teach, who were your inspirations? It's like your style of teaching, what you wanted to tailor it to. Because I know in this industry on the education side, everyone's always compared to somebody else. Sal teaches one way, Michael teaches one way, Joey Thomas teaches one way, Curtis Bryant teaches, so everyone's being compared to someone else. So how did you, one, avoid that noise? And then two, who was it that you kind of drew your teaching inspirations from?
I don't know if I avoided that noise. In fact, I would go to other people's classes and think about how much better they were at this than me, which probably wasn't a good idea in hindsight. And in fact, CJ Bryan and I had like a moment last year where I was like sobbing because a class went bad, and he was like, Bethany, you need to realize that you're better than this. And I was like, no. And that went to like 2 a.m., just that back and forth. And I think CJ and I are very different people, which I think is why we make good friends, but we do not have the same teaching style. Mm-hmm. The way he teaches gives me anxiety if I were to do it. Now, he does it brilliantly. Like, everybody learns everything. But like, if I were to do that, I would have so much anxiety. And he's like, why? It's fine. Look at everybody. They're having a great time. But I would say that I'm loud like Karen. I stylize a lot like Casey Dittmer, who I've loved learning from. And I should have mentioned her earlier. I don't believe she's teaching anymore, but I do love like heavy stylized texture looks. I have kind of like that same energy that Sal does a lot of times, where I just like how Sal he's loud, but then he'll come through and make sure everybody's like got something good. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I want to teach like Bethany, because they asked for Bethany. If they wanted diet Karen Bagley, that's just not who I really actually am.
I'll never get over that. Man.
That was the joke I made when I first started teaching, but like I really did have to learn how to teach like Bethany. And so ultimately, that's, I think, the new phase of the journey we're on, is that we're not going to compare anymore. We're just going to teach like Bethany.
Nice. Well, you know what? I'm just looking at the time. We're approaching another hour. Man, you've given me so much of your time. I know there's so many different layers and other things we could talk about, and we definitely going to have you on future episodes for sure.
Part 3, just Taylor Swift. Hear me out.
We will do a full.
Your daughter's on here.
We'll do a 4-way screen. We'll have on our Swiftie shirts and everything. She'll hold up all of her vinyls that I've bought. I'll hold up my my downloaded songs and everything. And just be like, look, okay, I work out to 22, and I work out to certain songs. Yes, some of her songs are on my workout playlist. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. Trouble is a good running song. Like if you're doing cardio,
especially if you're doing the goat scream in Trouble.
Oh yeah.
Where it's like trouble because you're running and it hurts.
Yes. But all jokes aside, like seriously, thank you so much for your time. Thank you just for always, being available and just being that friend that I've been able to call a friend in this industry. And
absolutely.
I'm super, super proud of everything you've accomplished so far and the things you're going to continue to accomplish. And, you set the bar for a lot of us that follow Creator Series, being the season 1 winner. And I now had season 1 and season 2 winner. Now I got to get like the rest of the cast on there. But I wanted to get you guys on early before you guys got too big timey on me. And then I have to like call your assistant to just schedule an appointment.
My assistant is my dog that's sitting right here.
Exactly.
She's not very helpful. She doesn't know how to work a phone, but she's cheap. So. Yeah.
But hey, again, thank you so much for your time. It was a blast getting to catch up with you. Can't wait to see you in this weekend. We're gonna kill it at Obscura and just have fun with it, and hopefully I come out with some killer images that I can compete with and go from there. And yeah,
and tacos. We're gonna come home with tacos.
Oh yes, the food. So yeah, between the food truck there and then my daughter planning like all the places she wants to go eat at in Las Vegas, like all the little 10 pounds that I lost for this Vegas trip is going to come right back, because we're doing taco trucks, then we're doing sushi that night, then we're doing all these different crazy things. So yeah, I'm excited.
That's awesome.
But yeah, thank you again so much for everything. And I can't wait to see you. And again, man, I can't wait to have you on again on the future episode.
Of course.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
That's it for this week's show. Again, thanks for tuning in. Remember to like, subscribe, and share with others. Leave those reviews and check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until then, see you next week.